Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 58 of Camerata Pacifica's Concerts at Home. My name is Adrian Spence. I'm the artistic director for Camerata Pacifica. And today I'm going to introduce you to a composer from whom we've commissioned a work. This is, the Irish tongue is going to struggle with an Iranian name. This is Niloufar Nourbakhsh. I didn't do it right. Tell us your name, please.
That's great.
What does it sound like in Iranian?
Yeah, it's Niloufar Nourbakhsh, and
How did I stand a chance with that?
You were great. Thanks.
So
thanks for inviting me.
Well, yeah. So we're going to create a piece of music together, you and Camerata Pacifica. It's going to be a piece for clarinet, violin, cello, piano, and percussion, and other stuff, because you seem to work a lot with other stuff. And you're part of a group of commissions that we're working with at the moment. We have Emma Ruth Richards, a young composer out of England. We have Libby Larson, who of course is an American icon. And we have Clarice Assad, who's Brazilian. And we have you. And I have another couple of composers. I'm looking to I want to have 5 composers, and I'm looking to select the last one. And I didn't start intentionally that all of the composers would be women, but it started out that way, and I went, let's keep this going. So,
Perfect.
And then I was digging around, and I came across an article about you in the Washington Post, and dug into your music, and we're going to hear some of your music today. And yes, wow. So I am going to I asked for your permission if I could share this, but I'll just say that you're not yet 30.
Almost there.
And what is remarkably interesting to me is you're younger than my eldest daughter, and what is remarkably interesting to me is what you're choosing as the impetus for your compositions, and your boldness as an activist. Would you call yourself an activist?
I would not actually. I mean, it does merge in that field, and I think a lot of people would think of me that way, but I guess what I'm trying to do a lot of the times is just tell stories that I really care about, that somehow I feel a connection to them. I feel a strong resonance with what that is, and I just have this strong urge to write about it, and one form of that expression is music. And when we talk about activism, I feel like it's just a whole area that I am not necessarily like trained in or have much knowledge about. So I just don't quite see myself as an activist. I just see myself as a musician who is honest and just trying to like talk about the things that is important to her.
Honesty. I can accept your answer, because I look at my kids and I look at their friends, and I see your generation as just a much more aware and involved generation than what mine was. I've just had a birthday too. I'm not nearly 30. I'm nearly double your age. But
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I'm still unaware and still haven't got a clue what's going on. So, but let's visit your background. So, where do you come from?
Yeah, so I was born in Karaj, Iran, grew up there until I was 18. And then I decided to study music. Remember that very vividly at 17. And because of that decision, I kind of made a determination that I wouldn't want to do that in Iran. And I applied to several colleges in the US. And
You only decided to study music at 17?
to professionally, yes.
So, but you don't play the piano like somebody who only started at 17.
No, I started piano way earlier at 9. But it was kind of just as this extra thing that I did. My other interest was mathematics. I was very interested in math, and was like, preparing for like competitions in high school, and was really serious about it. But over the years in high school, music as this like side thing became a lot more important to me. I realized during the day, even if I don't do anything, I will always practice that piano. I will always like spend some time with my piano, and so that was just like a really important realization that I think this is what I have to do.
So you didn't. This mathematics thing is new to me. You didn't share that before, and that makes up that things become more clear. You'll remember when I first spoke with you about a commission, I was saying how much there was a sense of form, a command of form that I don't always hear in your generation of composers, and I appreciated that. And now structure is within you.
I guess
So,
so.
all right. So, what 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 was it like growing up as a child in Iran, and what was it like growing up as a teenager and emerging adult, and what was it like as a woman?
That is a very hard question. um, I mean, I think an important thing to understand is that, um, you know, patriarchy and misogyny is very much real in Iran society. And so I think even as childhood to a teenager to becoming a woman, I was always aware of my gender from a very, very early age. So I can say that that was something that, it was very present, and you just know it. That gender is a thing, and also that you will be treated differently because of your gender. And I think I was really grateful to be in a family that was, relatively really progressive, and so they would put me to play piano. They would take take me to piano lessons or like sports and stuff like that, and a lot of children my age didn't have that opportunity. One was economically, maybe they couldn't afford music lessons, and one was also a lot of times like just a conservative society and also religious society that wouldn't look good on music. And so, a lot of my classmates, they all wanted to play music, but they just didn't have that because their families didn't look very well on it. And so I think, besides that, I had a really wonderful community growing up, which was, I think, very inspiring. It's like it's always with me, the community that I grew up with, because my families are Sufis, and so I kind of like grew up in this Sufi house. I was, living with not just my family members, but a lot of like other people who were like living with us, and so it was kind of like a communal way of living that has really informed my being, the way I conduct life, that like community is very close to my heart. I think because of that upbringing. Um, and I think, um, the teenage life is like the teenage life anywhere else in the world. It's just silly, and a lot of innocence and trying to discover yourself. I think my high school years were one of the best years of my life. Um, I did not study much, a lot of sneaking out of the school, and um, just had a really, really wonderful time with my friends. And also, like, I had a really special school, which was really nice because um, we had to like take this like entrance exam to get into one of these schools, for like, I guess like more talented students, which I'm actually against these kinds of schools. But what was nice about it is that it just had more opportunities for like doing group works. So I remember one of the highlights of my high school years was that they would close the school down for 1 week, and we would take a classroom to do a project, and then we would open up for an exhibition, um, to public. And I remember, I fought really hard to, get the mosque that was in our school. Each school kind of has a space that's like the mosque for the school, and we turned that into like an artistic exhibition. It had like 4 corners, so we like, we brought these like walls to put into the mosque, and one was like theater, one was photography, one was like visual arts, and then one was like music. So, it was like a really fantastic group project. There was like 20 of us involved, and we brought a piano to school, which became like a very contentious problem. Like we were like, piano was on the way, and then our headmistress was like, "You cannot bring a piano to the mosque," and we were like, "But we worked so hard on this." And then there were like some officials coming to like see, from like the education ministry. So the headmistress was like, "Okay, fine, you can bring the piano, but like when they come to observe, you can only play like the national anthem." And I was like, "Deal, that's what we're gonna do." So yeah, I have like the fondest memory from my high school.
Yeah, it's Niloufar, you're not an activist at all. No, that's just absolutely not. um, an interesting question is, when you've come to America, what in the United States, do you the gender discrimination that you experience in Iran, so you don't experience that here at all?
You definitely experienced that here, and I have experienced it here. It's just a much less. The degree is less extreme, for sure. Like there's so much more awareness, so much opportunity. You can like talk about it, loudly, and not be ridiculed for it. There's a discourse to talk about these problems and solve them, as opposed to like hushing them down. And so that's like a great achievement.
Let's listen to some of your music. Heartbeat. Introduce Heartbeat, and we'll listen to it. It's an excerpt, right? We're going to hear part of it.
Yeah, it's an excerpt that I'm playing at Stoller Recital Hall, and I originally wrote this piece for Splice Festival, I believe in 2016, and this is actually my first piece for an acoustic instrument in live electronics, and I was really excited to have this opportunity to be at Spice Festival, which focuses on electronic music. And yeah, this is my first try with live electronics.
And how do the live electronics function in this piece?
Yeah, so it's using software called Max MSP, and it's just generating. I'm just really working with sine tones. At the heart of it, it's all just sine tones that kind of augment certain tonalities that I want to like bring out into the piano. So it kind of just like adds this like sonic soundscape to particular harmonies that I want to like augment more.
All right, let's hear it. I'm going to try and say your name again. This is Heartbeat by Niloufar Nourbakhsh. Welcome back, Niloufar. So So you at 17 you decide that you want to head in the direction of music, but are you studying? Is your school in Tehran or is it in a small town? The town that you came from? Where is the town that you came from?
Yeah, it's the town is called Karaj, and it's like an hour away from the capital, so it's pretty close. And because of that, I had more opportunities in the capital because we were close.
Mhm.
And yeah, so my high school was in Karaj.
And so, but you decided to leave.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. As I mentioned, I decided to try to be a musician if possible, and I applied to a few colleges in the U.S. The ones that wouldn't require an SAT because I couldn't take an SAT in Iran. I had to like travel to another neighboring country that take that test. So it was kind of like an extraneous cost, and I just applied to a few colleges that wouldn't require SAT, and so I was really, really lucky that I got wonderful tuition scholarship from Goucher College, and my parents could financially support me for my room and board to cover the living expenses, and I went to the United States.
And so, were you composing beforehand? When did you start composing?
Yeah, I would say I started composing the very second I started learning piano. So it was very present with me. There was always this need that I need to make my own stuff. I always had these like short piano pieces that I made myself, and I never wrote them down. I always had them in my memory. Um, and sometimes I played them for other people. No one paid much attention to that. Um, I think around like 15, 16, I decided to write some of these preludes down on paper. And, I showed them to my piano teacher at the time. And, I was like encouraged, but at the same time, it was kind of like not a thing that was like very present. There was not quite a new music scene that you would like think. And also, I felt like I wasn't necessarily being encouraged to pursue this composition, so I just kind of like dropped it and didn't continue the composition lessons and just really focused on piano. I was also consistently told that I was better at piano than composition. Um, then I just kind of like stopped it. And then when I came to the US, I started out again with piano performance. And then the sophomore year, the second year, we had this composition seminar. And so I took those classes, and I got the opportunity for the first time to write for ensembles and not just piano. That was like the first time I wrote for an
So
ensemble.
when you're talking about, when you mention your early compositions, you're talking about preludes. So these are classical forms?
Um, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say yes, but I was kind of like building them up with the things that I was playing at the time, and by there were the Bach preludes that I was playing, and there were like some Chopin
Well,
preludes
I
that I was
asked
playing.
because the pieces of music that we're going to hear from here on out are decidedly not classical forms.
Right, right. I think definitely like early on, because I was like basing them off of the pieces that I was playing. They're like more so in that direction, but um, yeah, I think I was also not very consciously aware of like what form is per se. I was just like going off of whatever I was practicing. So
Well, if you're not consciously aware of what form is, you're unconsciously aware of what form is. And of course, you can create your own forms.
right,
Let's hear another piece.
okay.
We the Innumerable. So for this non-activist composer, um, please Why don't you give us a little background with the piece that we're about to hear and introduce it? Non-activist person.
Sure. So, yeah, We the Innumerable is my first opera, and I I really didn't know that I'm going to write an opera, or that I've been interested in writing an opera. But actually, right before I left the country in 2009, we had an election in Iran, and the election was stolen. So I kind of coup that happened, and that entire year, so the last year I was in Iran from 2009 to 2010, it was many protests that took place. And it was a very specific historical like event in our contemporary history. And I always, I like witnessed all of that. Of course, I didn't go to any of the protests. My parents wouldn't let me, but my sister went. Yeah, she would come home and be like, "I got beaten up today in the street." But it became like progressively hostile until it was very directly shut down, and a lot of protesters were killed over the year. A lot of people were in prison. A lot of students went to prison, and they couldn't go back to the university because they became like starred students, and barred from continuing their education. And it was a tough year. And also like the presidential candidate that people voted for went under house arrest, and he's still under house arrest after 11 years. So it really became like an important juncture, and like we haven't really recovered from that election, and everything just spiraled into this like web of darkness and corruption since then. And
How does that speak to the piece we're about to listen to?
yeah, so anyway, so I knew that I wanted to talk about this time, but I wasn't exactly sure in what medium, until I decided that opera is kind of like the best way to talk about a subject like this. And, you know, it's the time of the opera is set in this environment. It's set in this year. It's set in after this election. And the story of it is that there is a couple, and they're trying to, make sure their voices are heard. So they protest, but then one of them is killed, and the other one, Roya, who's the heroine of the play, she's imprisoned. And she's in prison, and she's kind of put under very extreme pressure to kind of confess that her husband was actually killed by the protesters. So, like, reversing the narrative. And forced confessions are like really become like bold tools for Islamic Republic of Iran to just change the narratives and like take control of how the news circulates, and especially both nationally and also internationally. And they're like really experts at creating propaganda, and I've also seen how effective it is. And so at the heart of this opera, what I'm trying to talk about are these forced confessions, and also like the importance of truth, and how it can really help and shape freedom.
Let's hear it. We the Innumerable. And we're back. Speaking with Libby Larson last week about the globalization of classical music and how cultures with very sophisticated histories are embracing this Western classical music language to express. I think you're a prime example of it. And your writing, and we're going to hear it again and again and again, is so incredibly powerful. And what's interesting to me as the person who said, I want you to write a piece of music for us, is what is going to be the successful expression 10 years from now or tomorrow. I don't want a prelude. Bach did preludes great. I got the preludes. What I'm interested in is, what am I not thinking about that I'm going to hear tomorrow? And that's where I have to turn to you. And so your own culture and your own musical system or scales definitely inform the piece we just heard, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think also whenever I think about vocal writing, especially in this opera because it's very deliberately set in Iran, I felt a very strong urge to use vocal music from Iran, and then the vocal tradition of Iranian classical music is very different, and I absolutely love it. And it's also like something that I've grew up with. Again, in a Sufi house. Music is a big part of it, and that music that I grew up with listening to a lot is Iranian classical music, and I never formally studied it for a very long time. I studied it for a brief time, about 6 months right before I leave, and so I never felt quite ready to like incorporate it into my pieces until this opera. And so yeah, what I really wanted to experiment here is to be able to bring an Iranian classical vocalist into the space of opera and experiment with that, like bel canto singing and Iranian vocal singing, how they can both be like a role in living both in the opera house. And yeah, and I'm also for the orchestration have Santur, which is kind of an Iranian dulcimer, and that's really exciting. It's kind of like just giving more support to the vocalist that I have in the opera, especially with the quartet tones that are within specific scales that I've used in the piece. And it's you know, it kind of feels just like the beginning. You know, I would like to like really learn a lot more and try it out more.
Well, I think we can safely say, you know, with this not yet 30 composer, I think we can safely say you're just at the beginning. There's plenty of time. The power of your writing and of your integration of technology. I want to hear another piece, a short piece. Remember Me. This is a COVID piece.
This is a common piece, yes.
And we're going to, I'm going to put up the poem that was the basis of this. It's a little 3-minute. You know, I'm not even going to introduce it. We'll talk about it after the fact. Here's another piece by Niloufar, Remember Me. So Remember Me is a COVID piece, and I find it just so powerful. This is this little fragment, and what happened? Why is it there?
Thank you. Well, yeah, it is. It was around June, May, June, 2020. Uh, that actually was just around the time that we were about to have the workshop for the opera, and it was all delayed and canceled everything. So, I also like felt like all of a sudden I have some time to not be going crazy about this opera that is about to like happen, and can actually like because I was focused on the opera and writing on that for like the past 2 years very intensely. So it was kind of like the first time I was able to not think about that and musically try something different. And I have this ensemble with my friends from Stony Brook University called Ensemble Decipher, and we're all kind of a collective of composers as well as performers who are really interested in technology. And we were also experiment with writing pieces for ourselves that we can perform live telematically in this new COVID Zoom hall, I could say, in this COVID time. And I had heard the poetry by Nayyirah Waheed, Africa's Lament, and it just really resonated with me. It reminded me of my mother, it reminded me of my roots, and then the duality of my memories and also the reality of today, and also felt appropriate for the COVID time because we were all just so distant from each other. So there was this like lament to reconnect and then feel for each other. And also, a lot of people were experiencing loss, and I had lost my mother 2 years ago. And it was a great opportunity to try something new, and kind of come to terms with these like really strange feelings we were feeling at the time. And I felt like vocoder was an interesting thing to try out because everything is mediated at the time. Everything's happening through this like screen, and so also the human voice I felt like needed that kind of mediation. So it's really like towards the very end of the piece, like I feel like I wanted to say like through this journey that we like finally hear the performers' voices as still like mediated through Zoom, but no longer through a vocoder.
The wonderful thing of your music is the explanation adds, but it's not necessary, and I think that's key. I think if you have to explain to people what they're listening to before they listen to it, if they can't respond, if they can't develop an emotional connection or an expressive connection or a connection to the expressivity without a written introduction or a spoken introduction, then you're in the wrong game. It's time to go back to mathematics. Let's listen to another piece. So, Niloufar, my non-activist friend, what have we just listened to?
Thanks for teasing me. Firing Squad by.
You do understand that your titles are rather provocative, my dear?
I do understand that, yes.
Okay, just
I
checking. I mean, it's
I
like,
guess so.
you know, I'm
I
an
guess
old
so.
man compared to youth, and maybe I'm missing these bucolic pastoral, you know, it's like.
No, I understand. I'm like kind of yeah, put really provocative titles. Yeah, Firing Squad was written for Acropolis Reed Quintet in 2018. And actually, we've just released the CD of all the recordings of that residency. So it just released this past month. So you can buy the album.
Right, we will be putting where you can get the CD. We'll put the website up here. So get the CD, people.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting as we were talking about titles because every time this piece is played, people would think that I've lost a family member to a firing squad in Iran, and that is actually not at all what the piece is about. Thankfully, and it was inspired by
I
Gabriel
love the
Garcia.
fact that you find that hilarious.
No, I'm like really thankful.
It's like, what?
Yeah, no, that's my bad.
Well, no, you know, maybe Iranian, humor and Northern Irish out of the troubles. We will have a lot of stuff to share.
Yeah,
Versus
it's true.
talk about
It's,
black humor. Okay, so
yeah, true. It's a way to cope. Um, yeah, this was inspired by Gabriel Garcia Marquez's novel, 100 Years of Solitude. And it's really inspired by the first sentence because I just opened this book and I, started reading this book and it opens up with this person in front of a firing squad. And, well, obviously they're about to be shot to death. And then they said, oh, while they were like facing this firing squad, they thought about the first day that they went with their dad to discover ice. And then it goes like 200 pages into this life of this person that we know is already in front of a firing squad until we like get to the moment again, like 200 pages later. And so that form was like so interesting to me. And to like just like show something to your audience and then be like, oh, down the memory lane for like the entirety of the book, and then we come back. And so I kind of wanted to like depict that form into the music, to like show a material in the very beginning and then kind of like rediscover it again to get to it. And yeah, and I also was just thinking about how, like, I always ask the audience to think about a memory that they would think about if they were to face a firing squad. Like, what would they be thinking about?
boy, you're such an upper. Remind me whenever you come to Camerata Pacifica not to let you make introductions from the stage.
I'm sorry.
Were all of you about to face the firing squad? You're tough, man. These are. I thought people from Belfast were tough, but not at all.
I'm sorry.
All right, we're running out of time. IFCA, go.
Okay, sure. Iranian Female Composers Association was created in 2017 with two of my dear friends, Aida Shirazi and Anaita Abbasi, and it grew to become a collective of about 45 composers, and it's
all Iranian?
Growing, of all Iranian female composers.
In America or worldwide?
Worldwide, yeah. So, but based in Iran, the U.S., Canada, as well as Europe and Asia.
Good. All right. Well, that was the succinct one. Okay. I'm going to play another COVID piece. The Darkness of the Womb. You can introduce this once again. Well, I'm just going to shake my head, look at you with fondness.
This one's gonna be okay. I mean, this one. So this performance that you're about to hear is a COVID performance of it, but the piece was commissioned a little bit earlier before the COVID hit, and it was commissioned by Chelsea Hollow, and it's the text is based on a speech by Valarie Kaur, who is and she calls herself an activist lawyer, actually. It's a very powerful text. I think it surfaced like right after 2016 election. So like a lot of people were like feeling resonance with the speech somehow, and I try to be really loyal to the text. It really walks through like the life of Valarie Kaur's grandfather as an immigrant who comes to America with like so many dreams and hopes, and so many of those dreams and hopes have crushed because of racism, and how that surfaces through American society in different ways, and different experiences of those, and then she like ends it on a really hopeful note that in 2016 we might be seeing some horrific times, but maybe this is actually just giving birth to a new society, and that's kind of where the womb is coming. So this is like just the darkness in the womb, and it's just about to like be a new beginning for our society.
The Darkness of the Womb.
He sailed by steamship across the Pacific Ocean, from India to America, leaving behind but when he landed on American shores, immigration officials saw his dark skin, his tall turban, and saw him not as a brother, but as foreign, as suspect. Threw him behind bars, where he languished for months, until a single man, a white man lawyer named Henry Marshall, filed a writ of habeas corpus that released him. Christmas Eve, 1913.
Yes, Rabbi. The future is dark.
On this New Year's Eve, this watch night, I close my eyes, and I can see the darkness in my grandfather's cell. And I can feel the spirit of ever-rising optimism in the Sikh tradition Tadinkala within him. And so the mother in me asks, what if this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country that is waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor? What if our grandfathers and grandmothers are standing behind us now? Those who survived occupation and genocide, slavery and Jim Crow, detentions and political assault. What if they are whispering in our ears today? Tonight you are brave. What if this is our nation's great transition? What does the midwife tell us to do? Breathe and then push. Because if we don't push, we will die. If we don't push, our nation will die. Tonight we will breathe. Tomorrow we will labor in love through love. And your revolutionary love is the magic we will show our children.
Okay. So as a little postscript to conclude, so as I listened to that piece, I was wondering, because your approach to the quality of sound is novel. So I was wondering, it's a COVID piece. So I was wondering, is this out of tune piano integral to to the composition, or is it just an out of tune piano in her apartment?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the second one. No, that piano was very dear, and it served me and accompanied me through many pieces for 6 years, and I actually just got a new piano.
You could really screw the performers by having on the page of instructions for performance, very precise, get the piano precisely out of tune to match your apartment piano. Steinway would go nuts.
They will hate me forever.
And talk to me about the voice manipulation at the end.
Yeah, using a vocoder again for that part. I think I wanted to bring a different vocal quality for that last movement because, it's talking so much about, the darkness and the tragic things that we see over the course of the first, 8-9 minutes in the different movements, and then at this last movement, this is where it's like hopeful. It's kind of has a different tone, and I felt like I definitely need to bring a different vocal quality to this, as a reimagination of what the future can hold.
I am so delighted to introduce you to Camerata Pacifica's audience. And Camerata friends, you can see why I'm so excited to be working with Niloufar. Even our approach to the commission is going to be a little different. We're going to workshop a bunch of it and experiment, and we've no idea where it's going to end up. But it's going to be fantastic. So this is actually the last concert at home we're doing until I'm taking a summer break, and we'll pick it up again in the fall, because now I'm preparing for live music. It's going to be so fabulous. So Niloufar, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to work with Camerata Pacifica, and I just cannot wait to get started on this piece.
It's going to be so much fun. And all of the Camerata friends, have a wonderful summer. We've got now 58 of these episodes. You can keep yourself occupied with the summer. See you all sometime later.